football is just weird. Football is just funny. Football is just one of these things that no matter what you end up doing or saying, it ends up being one of those things that you still fall in love with it. You end up being frustrated with it. You end up getting upset. You end up being joyful, all in the same moment. It ends up being that. And no better moment to kind of describe that than to see exactly what happened at the Santiago Bernabeu. I'll talk about the offside later on, so just bear with me, okay? So just keep watching, and I'll get to that point. Because there's other factors that need to be mentioned. Because everyone talked about Jude Bellingham, everyone talked about Vinicius Jr., everyone talked about Harry Kane and Musiala and everybody else. No one mentioned Joselu. Joselu, it's funny not to mention it because just 2 years ago he was flying with his buddies to Paris to the Champions League final to go and watch Real Madrid win it against Liverpool. So 2 years later, he ends up being called by Carlo Ancelotti. Hey, by the way, actually, I'll have to even go further back. Joselu was the player that was supposed to replace Karim Benzema. Player that comes in, he had been in the second division and he had suffered the relegation of Espanyol. He ends up being loaned to Real Madrid. He ends up going to Real Madrid, as I said before, as that replacement. A lot of criticism there. Yeah, he doesn't contribute, but he does go in and pitch in every once in a while. Of course, the match ends up being a very tight one, ends up being a very adverse situation for Real Madrid. Carlo Ancelotti says, Joselu, you come on. Brahim Diaz, you come on. Of course, Brahim Diaz, keep in mind, he was recently over at AC Milan. So he's also another player that, well, tries to find his way. Well, they come on, they change the dynamic of the game, and you end up finding a Joselu that has been able to make a living being a poacher. And he indeed ended up being a poacher not once, but twice. A beautiful way for him to be able to feel a sense of retribution, that or a sense of that he can pay Real Madrid back the faith that they had in him, and he can pay back Carlo Ancelotti what he did. But there's a lot of things that need to be talked about that led to this point. You look at what Thomas Tuchel said post-game and talked about the refereeing. Like I said, hold on, I'll talk about the refereeing later on. And you have to go and say, you know what? To be quite honest with you, it's not just the refereeing that didn't go your way, which it didn't. The referee made a mistake. The assistant referee made a mistake. Yes, I'm totally right with that. But nobody got robbed. It wasn't anything along those lines. It was a mistake, and that's the end of it. Real Madrid had a goal disallowed, rightfully so. Fine. That's not a problem. Bayern, we don't know. I initially thought it was onside. I'll confess. I thought it was onside initially. But then there were a lot of doubts in terms of, was he not? Could he? But then the problem isn't the refereeing. I'll tell you exactly what the problem was later. The problem with Tuchel, though, ends up the substitutions that he makes, the changes that he makes, end up kind of taking out all the virtues of the team. Of course, there's one that he had no other remedy. He had to bring in a player to replace Serge Gnabry. Brings in Alphonso Davies. He creates the only goal of the match for Bayern. Bayern were ahead 1-0 at one point. So then this is, and you can end up looking back and seeing how this ends up being a very important moment, because you end up getting flashbacks of that 1999 final against United, where Bayern were looking to close shop. Lothar Matthäus comes in and says goodnight. Thank you very much. Oh, it's been great. All the Bayern fans are clapping. Everything's great. Bam, bang. United go, United win. Kind of a similar situation, but then you always have to say the same thing again and again and again and again and again and again and again with Real Madrid. You have to kill them off. You cannot bunker up. You can't defend because they're going to come after you. They're going to go and wave and wave and wave. They might win. They might lose. Yes. But they will always go and they'll die fighting at least. And that's what every Real Madrid player is obligated to do. I don't want to sound like a Madrid fan because I'm not. Furthest thing from it. I'm not. But you have to understand and respect the virtues that Real Madrid do have. Not just historically, not just in this team, but historically. Because now it's Bellingham, now it's Vinicius, now it's Rodrigo, now it's Valverde, now it's Rudiger, now it's Joselu. Before it was Cristiano. If it wasn't Cristiano, it was Benzema. If it wasn't Benzema, it was Sergio Ramos coming in the 96th minute and scoring in a header on a corner kick. It was a lot of those things. Go further back, you have to go and start saying Juanito, even to those days. And that's what Real Madrid is about. And if you don't learn it, you end up paying for it. You make it 1-0 with Real Madrid, you make it 2-0 against Real Madrid. And if you make it 2-0 against Real Madrid, you make it 3-0 against them. And if it's not 3, it's 4. And if it's not 4, it's 5. You kind of get my drift. That's what you have to do. You have them down. You make sure you just continue just throttling them. If not, you give them a little bit of life, which is what Bayern did as soon as they started making changes and starting to close shop and starting to freeze the game and starting, okay, fine, let's start closing this out. You give them a bit of life, they're going to come back and haunt you. Like I said, a lot of times they'll win. They'll also lose. But they're going to make your life miserable. And you have to find a way to make your life as least miserable as possible. And keep them as honest as possible. And that's what ended up happening. You bring in Kim Min-jae, you put him on the left. You move Masraoui over to the right because Joshua Kimmich was just having a nightmarish time with Vinicius Jr. In my opinion, one of the men of the match. If not him, it was Antonio Rudiger. It ends up being exactly that. There's no other way to put it. This is where Bayern ends up failing things. Bayern played well. Of course, Neuer ends up saving the day time and time again. But then you can't depend on your goalkeeper to stop everything. And unfortunately for Manuel Neuer, the one that he doesn't stop or the one that he doesn't handle ends up being the one that kind of starts that avalanche downward. Real Madrid get a bit of life. That goal comes in and it was just, they were running downhill. Which is a completely different context. Then Real Madrid continue pushing. Real Madrid are now looking to win. Not to take it to extra time or penalty. They're looking to win. If it means in the 90, that's great. If it meant in 120, that's great. If it went to penalty, that's fine. But they're going to do whatever it takes to win. And when you face a team like that, when you face a team with that much belief in themselves that they could still be down and they have a chance, they're in the 88th minute and they still believe that they can win the match, you better make sure you knock them out. Or at least put them in a submission. Or at least just suffocate them. At least. But you have to make sure that you give them a knockout punch because if you don't, and you give them a little bit of breathing room, they're going to come after you. And then all bets are off. Harry Kane, it's unfortunate, but there's nothing that we can say bad about Harry Kane. Why? Because Harry really played a decent match. He sets the pass out wide that ends up being Alphonso Davies' goal. He creates opportunities inside of the area. He's done everything he possibly humanly could. The only thing that he's missing, and he should have brought him from London, I don't know if he should have, but if he could have, he might have wanted to, is Heung-min Son. He misses a Heung-min Son to work off of because towards the end of the match, we ended up seeing it was so apparent that they don't have, or Harry Kane doesn't have a player to play off of like he did when he was at Spurs. Now, are we talking about different successes? Well, historically, yes. This season, no. Because Bayern basically ends up trophyless. And, well, so does Spurs. But Spurs, that's something that everyone's used to. But he doesn't have a player to play off of. And still we saw a Harry Kane that was a dominant force, not only in the Bundesliga, but also in Champions League. So, all of this being said, you have to give credit to Real Madrid. You have to give credit to Carlo Ancelotti. You have to give credit to Davide Ancelotti, who is basically the mastermind behind everything because, of course, Carleto ends up getting all the credit, rightfully so, but then Davide ends up being kind of forgotten in the wings because he's kind of the player behind the scenes. He's the one that does all the madness and creates all the situations and sets up all the scenarios in such a way that makes everybody's life clearer and easier to understand. So all that being said, the end of the match always ends up, and again, this is where I never want to hear Real Madrid and Barcelona fans complaining about refereeing. Because if there's two teams in the world that don't deserve to even say a peep, are those two teams. Now, like I said, is it offside or not? Initially I thought it was, but now that I see it, now I have doubts. But we'll never know. We will never know because the referee broke protocol. According to IFAB, the possibility or the protocol to deal with an offside is to let the play go through its entire process. Now, I'm not saying, like I said, I'm not saying Madrid got robbed or Bayern got robbed, anything like that. It's just bad refereeing. And there's bad refereeing everywhere. And bad refereeing is an endemic situation that football's going through. If that protocol is broken, well, then when the referee blows the whistle, play's dead. VAR can't go back and play's dead. Start over. If the referee lets the play go, the ball goes into the back of the net, okay, fine. Then he blows the whistle. Okay, cool, not a problem, because now it's VAR and the opportunity for VAR to intervene. Now, if VAR goes and says, Mr. Referee, the play is onside, or no, the play is offside, or whatever it ends up being, or there was a foul on the other ends, player punched another one, whatever, that's a different story. But the referee and the assistant referee, first of all, raises his flag way too soon in a very tight situation, because if you look at it, you don't have 100%, you're not 100% sure if that ball, if the play indeed was offside, because the left leg of Antonio Rudiger ends up maybe keeping him onside. You don't know. So now I have to say, I don't know because of that. Now, will we know? No, because it's no longer valid. And that's where things ended up getting messed up in terms of this entire play. Are Bayern and Thomas Tuchel rightfully, yeah, they should be. They should be upset because it takes a chance away. Should they be upset at only that? No, but because again, games aren't won and lost by one play alone. There's a sequence of things that occur. There's a sequence of decisions that are made. There's a sequence of plays that are executed properly or not. There's a lot of things that go behind winning and losing a game, not just one play. And if Bayern think that one play and one play only ends up being the difference, well, they didn't see what happened in the latter stages of the game when Real Madrid had them pinned and the decisions that they made to counter that. That is what ended up causing the problems for Bayern Munich. That and not being able to kill off Real Madrid when they had the opportunity to do so. So, again, Bayern will again lose to Real Madrid again. And Real Madrid going to their 18th, yes, you heard me right, 18th final, looking for their 15th Champions League. And they'll do so in London on June the 1st as they face Borussia Dortmund in that final over at Wembley. Hope to be there. I better not say too much. And we'll give you all the details and all the download on what's going on in the Champions League, on South American football. We'll start doing a lot of Copa Libertadores. We'll start doing a lot of, well, of course, what's left of the Spanish League. Next season, we'll start doing a lot more previews of Premier League games that I'm going to be doing commentary on. Copa America previews, make sure you're checking that out in the next couple of days. That'll start coming out. And, well, a couple of surprises that'll be coming down the pipe down here on this particular platform. Guys, it's been a pleasure. Remember, do the usuals. I don't really want to ask too much. I leave it to you in terms of subscribing and all that stuff. If you want to, that's great. If you don't, that's fine too. As long as I can spread the word, as long as I can say things, as long as I can give you my honest opinion about everything, I'm happy with that. But it would be great so I can continue doing this, so I can continue elaborating a little bit more in terms of what football's about in different ways, in different forms, and maybe just in different places too. So we'll check it out, okay? We'll be looking for stuff. We'll be looking for features. And by the way, keep questions coming because I have on Friday, I will have my Ask Me Anything. I have already a couple of questions that are being established and are being made, and I already have them saved. So I'll be answering those every 2 weeks. So make sure you do that, all right? Thank you so much, guys. Talk to you soon. Ciao.